Hello and welcome back once again to another episode of Hard Knocks, where we teach you all of the things that you don't learn in school. You go to MBA programs, they teach you so many wonderful things, many of which are accurate.
Right.
But from what you've told me, I don't have an MBA. This guy does.
Right.
I don't have one of those. I probably will never get one of those.
I wouldn't advise it.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Maybe that's something we should talk about at some point.
That's true. What they actually that'd be a good hard knock. Why not to get your MBA?
Yeah,
right?
Why not to get
Yeah.
the MBA? Yeah. But we're here because we want to give you all that tribal knowledge that otherwise you have to learn the hard way.
Right.
And we want to save you that time and those cuts and bruises that you'd get otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
But so far, today, hey, another nice, beautiful sunny day here in Colorado.
It is super sunny.
Too sunny.
Yeah.
Probably too sunny.
Well, when you're 6,000 feet like we are here in Parker, oh my God, the sun is so intense. It feels like you could just be a crispy critter in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very true.
Yeah. Sunscreen is needed here. If you ever come out, bring the sunscreen.
Oh, yeah. Well, I've gotten in a habit of making sure I put that on every single day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or if you wait long enough at night, you can go out and then you don't have to worry about it as much.
Right.
But yeah, it's so hot. It's crazy.
Yeah.
By the way, free hard knock. Make sure to put on sunscreen.
Exactly.
Well, no. So here's the hard knock, right? I learned the other day that when it's cloudy outside, most people think that you don't need to put sunscreen on anymore, right? Because really, you won't burn,
right?
But all of I think it's like UVB still makes its way through the clouds and then goes down and then bounces off the clouds and comes back down again.
Yep.
So it's doubly more important to put sunscreen on when it's cloudy than when it's clear skies.
Yeah.
Because if you're putting sunscreen on just for sunburn is unsure, but if you're trying to prevent skin cancer, which is I don't want skin cancer.
Right. Well,
then you don't want
put it on. And you don't want cataracts either.
Yeah.
So sunglasses, make sure you're wearing sunglasses. I don't care where you are. Sunglasses are a must.
This is our transition from Hard Knocks being in sales and marketing, just everything.
Everything. I know. Right. Same thing with contact lens, by the way. I wear contact lenses. Mine have UV A and B on the surface of the contact lens.
Oh, that's really nice. Yeah, I don't think these glasses have anything.
You're sunk.
Yeah, I'm sunk. Well, good thing I put on my sunglasses like all the time.
All the time.
I know. The time. Yeah. But if we're moving into things that are a little bit more sales and marketing here, the first hard knock is one that I have a huge pet peeve for.
Yes, I know.
And there's a lot of people out there that are going to watch this and have heavy disagreement for.
I would imagine so.
But I'm right and they're wrong.
That's also true.
At least, unless you're the 0.1%. Where this isn't true for. But those aren't the people I'm concerned about.
Yeah, when you're in this dome here, you are always right.
Yeah, true. I am alwaalways right in this dome. I will never leave this place now. So the hard knock is that so many people believe I have a beautiful website. You probably are super proud of it. If you're not, that's a different issue altogether. You're writing probably lots of great blog posts. You're selling a service or a product out there. And your goal is thinking, man, I want customers to stay on my website as long as possible.
Right.
And it makes sense, right? That sounds pretty accurate. However, you couldn't be more wrong because your website, and this is a hard knock right here, your website is not a destination. Your website is a means to an end for a customer. Because here's the thing. When a customer goes on your website, and this is something we've talked a lot about before, you have to realize when a customer first finds out about you, almost every single time it is to solve a specific problem. They have a need. They're not going out there to go read specifically about content that you've gone and put out. They have a problem, and that is generally how they found you, unless you are doing a phenomenal job with SEO, right? Which is probably more like the 0.1% out there.
Right.
The thing is, by the time they find your website, they have already gone to probably 10 or 15 other sites trying to find a solution to this problem or comparing different things together. And so if you are thinking, oh, great, in my analytics, I need to also be monitoring time on site as my main KPI, but that's not what you want. You want to find out how fast in and out people are going in on your website. You want to make sure that when someone has a problem, they find the solution immediately. You are clearly communicating that to them and saying, we fix this problem. Because you're competing against 15 other sites that are trying to tell someone we solve that same problem, and you have to differentiate yourself, allow them to buy it as fast as possible, and then let them go. At that point, now you can start building a relationship with them, and you can teach them different things. But unless you're a Facebook or Instagram or a Twitter, you're not going to be on the home screen of someone's phone, that someone's just going to actively go to your website. That's just not how it works.
So a couple things there. I'm thinking when you said time on site, is that a analytic that Google Analytics gives you, or how would I know how long someone's on my site, just for people that are not web designers?
Yeah, so by default, some of the analytics people will have in GA, Google Analytics, are things like how long someone has been on a particular page. And so many people think, oh, great, if they land on a landing page or a service page, I want that number to be as high as possible. And that's one of the metrics that they've used for so long. The problem with that is if I'm on your homepage, or I'm on your service page, or I'm on your product page, I don't want you on there very long. I want to see that my conversion rate's really high. But if I have a really high conversion rate and the average time on the page is, say, like 3 minutes, I'm probably not doing a very good job communicating that this solves your problem. Because the education about how to solve your problem is likely not from the product page. Those are on other different blog posts or YouTubes or different pieces of social media you're getting out there, and you're talking about how to solve this problem. And oh, by the way, we have a solution for it right here.
Right.
That's where a lot of people look. And a lot of this thought comes from one, sure, I want people to stay on my page as much as possible. And there was these big pushes from companies way back. It was in StatCounter. I can't remember of the really big company like 10 years ago that was pushing this. That they want, it was all engagement numbers.
Oh yeah, right.
That was huge. But people forget there's like two different phases of your website. There's the engagement in terms of teaching someone new. I'm not selling you on anything. I'm just trying to educate you. You have a problem before you find the solution, right? More top of funnel marketing. And they get that confused and think, oh, I have to do that for literally everything on my entire website.
Got it.
That's not really how it works, because your website literally is just a glorified navigational menu. That's all it's supposed to be.
Okay, so you're using some big terms there, and I'm not familiar with. What do you mean that it's a glorified navigational menu? What do you mean by that?
Yeah. So let's talk about your homepage specifically.
Okay.
When you go on your homepage, the number one thing most people think about is, great, I have to show all my brand imagery. I have to show all of my cool things I'm doing in my company, right? You're trying to make a really big statement.
Right.
The problem, or you're saying, oh, we have this really good fundraiser, or doing this amazing, new promotion or something. Like, that's wonderful. That's great. The thing is, when someone lands on your homepage, very often they are going there because they already know about you. Because think about how people get to your website. Right? We're getting to the navigational menu part, but you have to understand how people get to your site.
Go ahead.
If you're on the homepage, more often than not, they don't get there from Google. Because Google is going to go and promote someone to go look at a specific service page or landing page or a blog post.
Because I'm looking to solve a problem.
You're looking to solve a problem, or you're looking for an answer for a specific question.
Okay. Makes sense.
So if you're on a landing page, a lot of that tends to be direct traffic, or someone searching for something that Google, for some reason, thought, okay, the homepage actually does suffice this. Wonderful. Great. So now you're there. Well, what am I trying to do? I'm on the homepage. Well, I need to get to where I actually want to go. I don't want to be on here. And there's a lot of websites out there, and this gets into something called top task research, which is this research you can do for websites. We could do a whole episode on this at some point.
Right. I remember you talking about this.
Yeah, where you find out via lots of customer research, what are the main problems someone has when coming to my website? Because a lot of people they will promote their blog, they'll promote the different programs they're in. And that's not why someone's actually at your website. They want to find out, oh, great, you do this type of flooring, you sell this type of product. I'm going to go boom, 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 in, out, fast as possible. And it's just not something a lot of people think about, because it's very awkward.
Right.
It is very much putting yourself in the customer's shoes and thinking, as a marketer, yes, if people spent 15 minutes on my website and it was a destination and they loved everything I wrote, that'd be wonderful.
Right.
But we don't really live in that world.
Mm-hmm.
And think about, we have TikTok and
Right.
YouTube Shorts
Yeah.
trying to get content like this, by the way, down to 1 minute. And you're hoping that someone spends that much time in a far less engaging format than a video on your website.
Mm-hmm.
You have to put the priorities in place. And the priorities for your website have to be get someone to where they're going as fast as possible, show them that you solve and have a solution for the problem as fast as possible, and then allow them to execute on that again as fast as possible. To me, the best website is one that allows me to go find an answer to my solution. I find it, I'm done, I'm gone in a minute.
Right.
I don't want to spend time with you. I want to spend time with like my kids or my family or playing the video game I was just playing and I had to hop off because maybe I needed a new graphics card or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't want to be there.
You know, I almost wonder if the opposite is also true, that the people that you don't want on your site, students, people doing research, maybe competitive research.
Oh,
and they're spending a lot of time on your site. You actually don't want them on your site. So you shouldn't pay attention to them on your site for a long period of time.
It definitely, I mean, it can definitely skew your analytics.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you could say, man, I have such a high time page on site, but it can get very difficult to segment those people.
Yes.
By, are they students or are they just kind of looking around because they find researching fun? I know a couple of those people.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know how far down that angle I would go, but it is definitely an interesting thought because we definitely had a client, Wayne Industries.
Yes.
That was that way. And they published tons of really good content and we were getting a lot of traffic to those pages.
Right.
And we found out none of our customers that we wanted to go and actually sell products to read that stuff, which is another hard knock, like making sure you're writing the content your target customers want.
Yes.
Not ones
to
that
solve
just
their problems.
Right. Not ones that just sound like good topics to write, because you'll see, sure, a high surge of traffic, but is it the right traffic? Is it traffic that people are actually going to buy something from?
Yeah. So we keep coming back to research and understanding your customers and their pain points. So here again, it sounds as if you're saying the website really needs to be structured around pain points.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, think about how often you go on a website and you don't really understand what it is for.
Right.
That's like 80, 90% of all websites, probably higher. How much better would it be if if everyone thought and agreed that, yes, my homepage, I should tell them really quick in something like a log line or an overall summary of what I do. So I'm like, great, that's my elevator pitch. I know who you are and what you do. Took me 10 seconds. And then everything else was, hey, how do you want to get to where you're going?
I like
we
that.
have training you can go look at if you're looking to get educated. We've got services we provide. Here's a quick link to get to support. And a lot of this does come from thorough research. There's a man behind Top Task Research, Jerry McGovern. I love that guy to death. And he was doing a lot of research for a cancer foundation out in the UK. And they wanted to push donations. That's how they were funded.
Sure,
right. Makes sense.
Right.
And so their homepage was just pushing the donations over and over and over again. Pop-ups, ads. Here's what we're doing with the donations. So what do you think he did? He said, let's find out what your customers, sure, customers, they wouldn't think about it in that, donators actually are using your website for. And he did all this Top Task research to go and find out, here are the 30 things, all ranked 1 to 30 by customers, by the way. Nothing from the company itself. All customers ranking these 30 things. And they found out, wow, no one's actually coming here to donate. People want to solve XYZ problems. Or find out research like, oh, what is, for cancer in the sun, how long could I be out there? Or they wanted to find answers to those things. And so he said, trust me on this. And he has a big track record, so they did. And they modified the whole website to be, homepage was a navigational menu, very easy to find everything you're looking for. They made it easy to find where to donate, but it wasn't plastered in your face.
Makes sense.
You know what happened? Donations increased by over 50%.
Wow.
People appreciate when you want to help them, and they like to give back as long as you make it easy to find out how to give back.
Yeah.
You don't need to shove it in their face.
Yeah.
It's true for everything. Think about all of the one of the main reasons why people really love shopping on places like Amazon. You know why? Because Amazon has the absolute best search in the entire world on their website. It is so good. When you type something in, like I want a blue cushion, it only shows you blue cushions.
Right.
They've spent so much time helping you get to the page you're looking for in 2 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And their whole brand is around that, to the point that's why free shipping was a thing. Get it as fast as possible. I don't want you on Amazon. Now, for them, they have a different case because they're like the number one website in the entire world. So they will be monitoring things like how many people just like to window shop with us, because that is a good metric for them.
Right.
But probably not for you, because you're not that destination. Sorry, you're just not.
That is super helpful. I want to ask you a question then. When I think about time on site, does it matter if I'm on my phone versus on a desktop versus like an iPad? Should I be worried that, or do I have to take in that to an account that I find out that most of my customers are actually on my website on a mobile device versus on a desktop? Does that play into that metric of time on site as well?
Metric time on site as in like what Google Analytics is going to show you?
Yeah, or does it matter, basically? Do I have to take into account the actual
The
device
medium
that people
someone's
are using?
Yeah. You should definitely be looking at that.
Okay.
I would guarantee almost everyone here, if you look at your analytics, it's split 70-30 mobile desktop now.
Wow.
Well, when you look at the numbers I got, because my good friends at Akamai, way back then, no, it was even just 2 years ago, that the shift is just going up and up for an amount of things on mobile.
Yeah.
But it is very helpful to look at things like what medium people convert on.
Oh, that would be a good thing.
That's very good.
Yeah.
Because overall, you want to be in making your website so that it's usable everywhere, because it's very common for someone to go browse around on their phone and then finish on their desktop. If you can make it really easy to just do all the things on your phone, that's wonderful. I mean, that's how most people are going to find you. This gets into a whole other slew of things, so we won't go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
That's for another time. However, you should definitely be thinking about how your content comes across depending on the medium.
Yeah, I think that's my question, because we're talking about it's not a destination, and so now I've got a mobile phone. Do I have to really take that into account? It sounds like I really do need to think about that.
Yeah, you do need to think about that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I know some websites, Nielsen Norman has done some experiments with making sure, especially on a mobile phone, there's a really quick scroll to top button you can click, go straight back to the top again, because otherwise it takes a while.
Right.
Or I know some companies out there that have also done experiments with, hey, send this to my phone, or send this to my desktop links.
I like that.
And it sends you an email with everything you just did, because maybe you don't need to do this right now. I mean, when you start thinking about how do I make it really easy for someone to get on my site and get out as fast as possible, it changes your perspective.
Yeah.
I mean, we were doing experiments for Stark Industries because we knew the person on the website wasn't the person who actually made the final purchase. Right. It was an engineer researching, and then the purchasing department would come in and make the final purchase. And so what we were experimenting doing is in the cart, to make it easy to have like a link, like share this cart button.
Oh, yeah.
Click the link, send it over to people in purchasing, and then they could go and purchase exactly what the engineer wanted.
Yeah.
Again, making it easy. I don't want those people on my website. That's great. But I think the last thing before we move on for this hard knock is now you're starting to think, okay, wonderful. In and out, fast as possible, right? First in, first out. Good programming principles too, right?
Right.
Is that you might also want to consider when I'm starting to get higher funnel. And this is where things like blogs and newsletters are wonderful, and you should be doing that. And you have to rank on Google. We're not saying don't. It's just take into perspective, your goal isn't to keep them on your website. It's to answer a question and then be gone. The thing that you also start thinking about is, okay, well, where are my customers when they are just in a learning mode? If they are more in a top of funnel mode and I'm trying to educate someone a little bit more. At that point, you might realize, well, it might not be my website. it might be someone else's newsletter. It might be someone else's YouTube channel. It might be my social media accounts.
Good point.
And you
Right.
start thinking about, okay, wonderful. How can I give my customers the information they want where they are as fast as possible as well, right? It's a whole shift from thinking about me as a customer, or sorry, as a company, and being very customer first and saying, how do we get this to you the easiest way possible?
Yeah.
That's what I really care about. And people appreciate it. They really do, and they will remember you forever.
Yeah. I feel like we're going back in many ways to this common theme that at some point in the very beginning of the start of the company, and the founder is really tight with a customer, they can kind of start thinking, oh, I can put myself in customer mode.
Yeah, exactly. Well, because you probably were the customer.
Right,
You
right.
made the product or service because you got sick and tired of
Sick
it.
and tired. But the farther away you get, you don't really understand all of these psychological things that are going on inside the mind of your customer.
No,
Right?
you don't.
Yeah.
No, I mean, not because you don't care anymore, but you had to bring in more people.
Right.
And now you don't see them as much anymore.
Yeah.
It very much gets back to that company customer gap again.
Yeah. So one thing I was thinking about is Acme. That's kind of an inside baseball thing, but we're looking at a new navigational method for them, right?
Yep, just launched it.
Yeah. And so one of the things that we were waiting for is they were going to share that with some people to get their feedback on it.
Yeah.
But the feedback wasn't coming from customers. The feedback was coming from people that are just friends,
Right.
right? So that input probably is not going to be terribly helpful.
No, you are getting into a whole other realm of user experience research.
Yeah.
Yeah, where you can go in deep with this stuff.
Right.
Top task research goes so deep. If you really love this methodology, you can hit us up. We could help you do it. But
Right.
the hardcore people like Jerry McGovern, what he does is they will have, say, the top 5 most important tasks you want to accomplish on the website. And he has a timer out.
Oh, sure.
And he times himself doing it every month and has it tracked on a dashboard. And whenever they find out, oops, it went from 1 minute to accomplish to 5. He's like,
You're in trouble.
what did you do? And they found out, well, we added these 2 pages. Like, that's not what we said you have to do.
Yeah.
And so he goes in and fixes the website again. It's a constant. It is a constant.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So I think the tip that I'm hearing here is that as you get into website development and you're the owner of the business, or you're running marketing, or you're the top of sales, don't assume that you are the customer or that one of your buddies is going to navigate the website like a customer. You literally need real customers to give you real feedback.
Yeah, it is a very big difference.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't assume that you understand or that you can play the role of a customer.
Yep.
Big mistake.
Yep. Well, I think we should move on to our next hard knock, though.
Yeah.
And this is one that I know is very near and dear to you because
Right.
you've had a lot of pain. You've seen a lot of people do this the wrong way. So why don't you take the reins here?
Yeah, so this is how to truly work with a designer. And let me just put a little aside here. And that is, if you have your own marketing department, that's great, and keep doing that. That's wonderful. However, if you are looking for a new designer or a new agency and you're just trialing them out, now they have to learn what is your brand experience. They have to understand, right? You might be testing out several at a time. And as an agency, we use contract staff. And so every now and then, we have to go find new contractors to work for, especially when we're in different mediums. How do you do that? How do you get someone up to speed? That's number one. And even before that, how do I know the right people to work with, right? And a lot of this comes down to, can they follow directions? And you'll generally start off on a place like Upwork, for instance. I found some wonderful talent on Upwork, so highest regards for that. And there's several other sites like that. However, there are many people there that have been doing their own thing for a while, or they may be very new, and they kind of do it trial by fire, if you will.
Okay.
Give me a project. If it doesn't work, we'll figure something out. And there's so many to choose from. And so I developed a bit of a process
Yeah.
in how to deal with this. And so let me start at a very broad level and talk about how do I even communicate with designers that we've been using for years.
Mm-hmm.
And that all happens within a thing called a creative brief. Google that, you'll see lots of examples.
Yeah.
I brought one with. We can attach it to the notes or
Yeah.
show notes
Yeah,
or
yeah,
whatever
put
it
in the
is,
comments or
right?
something, yeah.
Yeah, in the comments. And it gives you some procedures. But in general, you need to be talking to a designer as someone that may not know a whole lot about your business. And the number one thing that I will tell people is do not ever send a visual example to a designer, a graphic designer.
Okay.
Right.
Interesting. So never, when you're asking for a designer to go and whip up a visual representation of something,
Sure.
it's very tempting to say, I want it to look kind of something like this. You're saying don't do that.
If you want to say words, that's fine. But in fact, that's the only way you want to communicate with a designer. But if you start over engineering this, if you say, I want something that looks just like this, okay, you may as well just use an AI tool, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
What you want is you want someone's creative juices and energy to flow into a project. And the way in which you do that is through directions in a creative brief. So you'll say things like, I'm looking for a design, let's say it's a character design, and I want it to be an illustration.
Yeah.
Right? So I want a character is of age this, gender this.
Hey, you know what? Let's make this more fun. Great.
Sure.
We got our Fun Fox mascot.
Okay, good.
Okay.
All right.
Let's say in my head,
Yeah.
as the client, I want to get an image just like this. Isn't he cute? I love this little guy.
Yeah.
All right. And you're saying instead of sending some images of something that might look like this,
Sure.
how would you write the creative brief to get something like this back from an illustrator?
Sure. Okay. Well, first off, you're telling me that you want something like this.
Well, in my head, I'm like, yeah, maybe I want some type of a fox little mascot kind of company like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if
We'll put 'em right there for now.
is my illustration of a plush, because this is a plushie.
I don't know. We'll just say it's a character or something like that, or a logo. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that would be different. So if I want something that's an illustration of a plush, I'm going to say that, being specific.
Sure.
I'm looking for a illustration of a plushie fox, and it has to be available in a silhouette, and I'm looking for 3 different versions of this.
Okay.
Okay. And so I'm going to say it's generally going to be seen as something that's about 6 inches high, maybe 2, 3, 4 inches wide.
Yep.
And it's going to have multiple colors.
Okay.
Right.
Yep.
And I try to be very, very broad. I don't.
Would you get into things like I want it to like be golden or anything like that?
Okay. So that's to me, that's the second step.
That's a second step.
Right.
Okay.
I always like to have my first comps done in black and white.
Oh, kind of similar to how I do websites.
Okay.
Whenever we design websites, always, I guess this is a little quick tip too.
Right.
Always have your websites designed in black and white first.
Yeah.
Because you want to make sure that you can very clearly see the main points of differentiation.
Same thing here.
Yeah.
Right. And also we do it from an illustration standpoint is that sometimes people still actually do print things out, and most printers
It's got to look good on
black and white.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
because a lot of what's really good with focusing on black and white first is you're making sure that everything that you make stands out
yes.
and is easy to see for a couple different reasons. One, black and white, you have to be so on point
Exactly.
to make that stand out.
Mhm.
So on point. And 2, it does help you solve the issue of, is this going to be recognizable or easy to see for people that, are colorblind or whatnot. You're not
All of those
relying
things.
on the color to make it pop alone.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have to always be thinking, what is the medium that someone's going to use this in?
Yeah.
Because eventually my customers actually may put this illustration of this little fox
Yeah.
into a document, and
Yeah.
maybe they send it in for a trademark,
Yeah.
right? And well, that's all in black and white.
I didn't know that.
So you have to be able to start there. And I tell people color is the next thing. Oh, well, let's add some color to that. Well, what color? Is it a purple fox? Is it a red fox? Is it a gray fox? Those are secondary. The primary is get the design done first, right? And it also, even with this, I would say, is this a female or a male fox?
Sure.
It may have some bearing to the designer, is how I
Yeah.
describe that. So that's the first thing that I really look at.
So it's so far the biggest experience I'm thinking of is I'm sure everyone's been when you're in elementary school and you're writing a piece of paper, or you're doing something. And I remember very often my teacher would say things like, "Hey, don't ask other kids for ideas." Or, don't look at what someone else is doing, because then you can't get that out of your head.
You can't get it out of your head.
It's game over at that point. And it sounds very much what you're saying is, here's the boundaries I need you to play in.
Correct.
Because
very, very good.
Yeah, because art is, I mean, for example, we'll hold a little show note, right? Piece of paper, where are you looking? Right? As a viewer right now, are you looking here or here or here or here? Well, I can tell you for sure right now, if I do this, right? You're all looking at that dot. Everyone is looking at that dot. And what you are describing is saying you don't want to give them so much room that you have no idea where to look. You want to give them just enough information that there's lots of creative freedom, but they're still going to play around that space. Okay, cool. I like that.
Yeah, so be as broad as you possibly can, but try to keep it in the bounds. And again, a lot of this goes to language. Now, I'll give another little tip here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that when you're on Upwork, many of the designers are not English speakers, or if they are, it's not their primary language. So you have to really make sure that you're speaking in a language or using words that are not just Americanized or Englishized, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you have to make sure that cultural differences. So again, one of our main designers is from Argentina. And so we have to make sure that, Spanish is her primary language. When she and I first started working together, she was just learning English.
Yeah.
So she was relying on Google Translate to take my words.
Which back in the day was not good.
Not good, exactly.
Now it's like near perfect. Yeah.
Right. So you have to remember all of these things based on, again, I'm using Upwork as an example of where you might find talent. The second thing that I always think about is, what's the file format that I want? I have to tell people this.
Oh, 100%.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
So am I looking for layered Photoshop files, or am I looking for a flat EPS file? If you don't know what those are, I would tell you, talk to somebody who does, because you're not going to end up...
Vector versus render.
Yes.
Raster.
Raster, right.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you end up with files that are great for a project, but as we talked in a previous episode, you can't make edits to them. So I have to have layered files that are editable for me to go in there and do something.
Well, you're also getting to part of the nice thing about starting the way that you're talking about, which is like big picture.
Yes.
Is it also allows you a little bit of flexibility. If you do forget to do something like that, you can kind of catch back up. It's not game over. I have to redo everything.
Right. Exactly.
But it sounds like in the second phase, you start to get into little things like knowing a little bit of the lingo is very helpful.
Yes.
So if I'm asking someone for a raster file and I know that I'm going to print it, and I know the size I'm going to print it at, well, I instantly can very quickly calculate, well, what's the DPI I actually need?
Correct.
I probably need something for print at least between 300 to 600 DPI. If I'm doing something on a billboard, I don't actually need it as high, because I've seen it from such a distance. 72 is the same.
Right.
Yeah, so I don't need to waste the designer's time of like making 300 versus 72.
Right. But in this day and age, everything is in a PDF format. So you have print ready PDFs, which is what you're actually going to get.
Yep.
And that goes to everybody. It doesn't matter if you're putting something in an old time newspaper or you're printing something that's going to end up on a billboard.
Yep.
A print ready EPS or PDF file is going to give you everything that you need, regardless of what the medium is actually going to be as far as printing it. So
that's your second step.
That's the second step. The third I like to talk about is your style guide. You may not even have a style guide, but this is a guide that talks about your language and how you speak. Do you talk to customers in a third and fourth grade level through a Flesch Kincaid score? which is a score that you can use if you're not familiar with it. You can send a document, or Word has it built in, and it'll tell you what reading level you want to be at. Most of the best written websites and
It's like fifth grade.
designs, maybe fifth grade. I kind of aim for fourth grade, right?
Yeah.
Some
Yeah,
of
but
the
we're talking a lot more visual designs right now.
yes, correct. Right.
Yeah, yeah. So that might not apply as much to visual designs.
You're absolutely right.
You're talking about
Right.
style guides, probably a little bit more like colors.
Right, but remember, I'm writing my style guide to give direction to my designers, and so my style guide has to be written in that language as well, right? I can't use all these fancy words in my style guide and then expect my designer to understand all of those things and then give me something that is, whether it's written or designed. I want to make sure that I'm communicating to them in very clear language.
Sure.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's where you'll say, here is our font choice, here's the colors, here's our the colors that we use, and here's what our color wheel is. And again, these are separate conversations all on their own, but you can read about them. And so I'm now arming someone with everything that they need. And again, this might just be my first couple of projects with this individual. Now, the thing that I do, and it's in this guide that we'll tell you, is that I will say, these are the procedures. This is how you will engage with us. We're going to do this. And do not message us. If you have questions, this is a key here. If you have questions, use your best judgment. Do not come back to us with questions. If you are concerned about something, give me a couple of different comps, and I use that term, comps, as a short form for comprehensive, right? They're different looks of things. Just do something extra, right?
Yeah, I think so. To make this really clear for everyone, what you're saying is when you are working, especially with someone new, a good way of testing them out is saying, follow these instructions. Do not come back to me for any other feedback.
Right.
Assume that you can figure out the answers for everything and then come back to me with the finished product.
Correct.
If you have been working with them for a while, that does not matter as much.
Sure.
What you're trying to find out when getting a new contractor is how well they can actually follow those directions, how much they can think for themselves, because you want to save yourself time and not go through, find someone that needs like hand holding everywhere.
Right. And
so that's the tip.
Yes. Yeah. And in my procedures, and it says, if you private message us during this project, that tells us you didn't read the instructions, and therefore we're not going to be interested in working with you.
Yep.
So just lay that out and set some boundaries on what that relationship actually looks like. So that's how I use Upwork. And I'll give you one last tip that has been wonderful for me. Don't ever hire one designer at a time. When you're looking for a designer and you need a logo design, or you want, an illustration of a plushie, whatever it is, I like to hire 3 at the same time. So I'll do the same amount of work. I will go online in Upwork and I will look at portfolios. I mean, I do a lot of work to find someone,
of course.
Right? I don't just put something, Upwork wants you, just post it and someone will find you. I don't do any of that, right? I'm actually doing searches, looking at portfolios. This looks like someone that I could work with, prior work, the budget fits within my range, and then I hire 3 of them. And after the first project, I'll make a selection of who I'm going to give work to into the future.
Yeah, that's a great tip.
That's really where that works.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
So moving to the third hard knock,
right.
The last one for the day, is how you as a marketer can set yourself up to be the secret weapon of your sales team and have them love you to death. Because the main reason you want to do that is, especially if you're in B2B marketing, you are not the showstopper. It doesn't matter what they teach you when you get an MBA, what any book says, you're not the kingpin of that company. Mm-hmm. That is not, you're just not that important compared to the sales team.
Right.
And so what is very common in these companies that, again, a little bit more B2B focused, when you look at things that are B2C, very much more consumer, then yes, marketing tends to be a little bit more like they run the show. Because a lot of those companies might not even have a sales team, period. So there's really no competition.
Sure. Yeah, like Target, for instance. Right?
Sure, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, marketing definitely runs that show.
Correct.
But when you're in a B2B space, you see so often people jumping from jobs every year or two, agencies getting swapped out. You can look at people's LinkedIn profiles that do marketing for B2B, and they jump around all the time because it's very common for the sales team to say, we're good. We want someone else with some new ideas. You are out, and then someone else comes in. And so if you want to make sure that you get a long relationship with someone, that you keep that B2B marketing job as long as possible,
Right.
your number one job is you want that sales team to love you to death. You want them to think of you as a secret weapon. And so there are a few things we're just going to run through pretty quickly here
Right.
on what you can do so that they see you in that fashion and will go to bat for you to make sure you stay at that company forever and
Right.
have relationships for like 7, 8, 9 years instead of ones that are just like 2, which is so common.
Oh, the turnover in marketing is crazy. It could be 18 months to 3 years, and then you're out and you're moving on to someplace else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll take the first one here, which is it's very common for a lot of marketers to essentially only talk with people like the sales team through things like email.
Yes.
Here's the problem. Again, I want them to love me. I want them to want to give me information too, because remember, they see the customer, I don't. So I want to be in their good grace as much as possible. So you have to think, how do people in sales talk? How
Right.
do they communicate? Well, sure, they do some things in email, but for the most part, it's a lot of things that are visual or at least, audio based. They're calling people. So when you are communicating with people on a sales team or you're trying to set up meetings with them, go out of your way to go and set up meetings like over something like Zoom or at least something like a phone call.
Right.
If you can, go see them in person every now and then. They will really appreciate it. Plus, your meetings are immensely more productive because that's just how they work and think. They don't work and think in email. And your meetings will be so much more valuable.
Right.
So that's the first thing that you can do to set yourself up for success there.
Yeah, and I have to say, this has it's tougher when you work for a really large company, because large organizations that I've worked with almost have created silos for the sales team and the marketing team to live within, and the two never talk with each other. In fact, it's almost forbidden. I can't tell you how many large organizations have Salesforce just for the sales team, and the marketing people do not have a seat inside of Salesforce.
Mm-hmm.
So they can't see what the deal structure is. They can't see top of funnel, bottom of funnel, all the things that you would think. And a small company operates so much more efficiently than a large organization. So if you're working at a large organization, by the way, you should make sure that your marketing team actually has seats on your Salesforce. Just good tip.
Yeah,
Do
well,
that.
you're getting into the second part here that you can use to really stand out as a secret weapon, which is commonly you won't have access to any of that stuff, which is one of the main places you can use to find out what you're actually selling.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Going out of your way to talk with the sales team whenever possible, go learn from your customers. If you can get access to them, that's a whole other can of worms. And learn what you're truly offering and selling to someone.
Right.
Because it's never the service and the product.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember our previous episodes, when we talked about one of the most powerful questions you can add to your website forms, which is what drove you to look for a solution to this problem today of all the days? Why was it today? It's not going to be, because I wanted your product. It's going to be, I had this particular thing I needed solved. So a lot of the things that you're selling overall are kind of anxiety reducing solutions.
Right.
Because you're like, great, I need this done. Could I have done it in a week? Probably. But the anxiety started to build up enough that I don't want that anymore.
Yeah.
I need to fix it. And so if you go out of your way as a marketing person to learn that, now you're talking to sales in their exact language, and you're probably helping to educate them on some things. And not to mention the campaigns you're going to put together for them are going to be much more in line with what they're thinking about. Because remember, you want them to be your spokesperson. They are the person who makes your life way easier, open doors for you no matter what. And quite often in some companies, they can have a little bit of control of the marketing budget.
Yeah, you see that. And, I think about the data that is flowing into the marketing team that is often not shared with sales. For example, the answers to those questions that are posted on the website forms, are the sales team actually getting that information flowing to them, right? So they get a lead, but they may not know any of the background on why that person actually came to the website. They don't really know. They don't know the page that they came from. It's just a lead, right?
Yep.
And that gets me to a point that I think that marketing people need to recognize that they're in a really wonderful position. And that is a position of they're the hub inside of the spokes in the wheel. So you have to think about all of the sales team as the spokes, and you're in the hub. You have an opportunity to see what's going on the West Coast and in China and in APAC, or however you want to define what your territories are. You're getting all of that information flowing to you, but the sales team isn't. So you can take that information. You could even have your own.
You're saying because commonly sales members have a specific region they're allowed to work with customers in. So
Right.
there's not competition.
Sure.
And as a marketing person, you have access to all of it.
Yes.
So you can see the whole picture instead of a small picture and then bring that to the sales team so that
Right.
they can all benefit from that.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right. Especially when you see similar use cases. You can really be a center of information that the sales team wants to come to you. Hey, have you seen this kind of issue before? Oh, as a matter of fact, I have, but not in your region. It's happening someplace else. Right. And so you want the sales team to be coming to you, asking for help, asking, hey, I've got a presentation. Could you polish up my PowerPoint for me? Oh, well, tell me a little bit more about the customer. You're starting this wonderful dialogue of how sales and marketing can work together. It really wasn't that long ago, I mean, probably like 100 years ago, that marketing didn't exist. There was no such thing. Sales was all there was. And the two, sales and marketing, if you think of it, they operated as one. It was only more recently that it was defined into something different. I think really was the advent of television that really brought that separation to where you had a lot of advertising agencies and it started to separate the sales and the marketing function. But, again, it wasn't that long ago. It was all one. And that's where the real power is when we're working together.
Yep. So if you end up following some of those key tips there, like being willing to learn about the customer,
Right.
Maybe you go on a call once, every now and again, just to be able to learn what you're really selling, to not hide behind your email, but be willing to hop on the phone, to
Right.
see them in person, to do a Zoom call, easier than ever to do it. But a lot of people don't because it's, just that little bit of annoyance because it's not how a lot of marketing people work.
Right.
So those are a lot of the key things that if you keep that in mind, you will be a hero to the sales team.
Right.
And they will go to bat for you no matter what. And you'll start building those really long connections that we all really want.
Right. And I would say kind of a final tip, and maybe this is a little bit of a nuance or a way in if you work for a larger organization and you have these silos, and that is trade shows. Showing up at a trade show to do something more than just setting up the booth or the microphone for the conference, but actually working the booth side by side with your sales team can really be a super helpful thing for you in your own career. And kind of to the point of building these long-term relationships, I have found that as jobs come and go, and we talked about this high turnover, having a relationship with salespeople really expands your universe of places that you can go find work, because those sales teams are calling on companies that they may know of that are, hey, this is a really exciting company. You ought to go take a look at it. So just in the wrap up on that, I want to make sure that tip is well known of why you want to work with the sales team, not only to benefit your existing customer, but also for your own self-benefit into the future in your career, that in many ways you're in charge of your career development, not your employer. And so therefore you have to make sure you have good contacts outside of your business to go find your next job.
Yep. But hey, everyone, those are the 3 hard knocks we got for you today. Remember that your website is not a key destination for your customers. You want to help them solve the problem when they came there as soon as possible in an efficiently a manner as you can, and they will love you ever for it. Some key tips about how you can really work with a designer and onboard a new one, and also why and how to be the best secret weapon for your sales team. So we ran through a good deal here today.
Right.
I hope we'll see you all again next time. But until then, everyone, stay curious. See ya.